For decades, Jeannie Seely stood under the Opry lights, smiling through standing ovations and wearing rhinestones like armor. But behind the sparkle was a secret she swore she'd never reveal. Now, a resurfaced letter, a familiar name, and one memory she could never outrun if pushed her to speak. What really happened during the power outage of 1971? Why did she burn one of her own dresses in the parking lot that night? And what did she witness in room 6B that the Opry refused to acknowledge for over 50 years? After 6 decades as a Grammy-winning icon and trailblazer, Jeannie Seely is finally telling the story she's kept locked away, until now. Before the spotlight, long before The Secret, long before room 6B, before the night a dress went up in flames, Jeannie Seely was just a steel worker's daughter with a voice too big for her Pennsylvania hometown. Her mother hummed hymns while cleaning floors, and Jeannie clung to static-filled country radio like it was a lifeline. There were no industry connections, only determination. At 16, she mailed her lyrics to a Nashville publisher. No reply. At 21, she packed a small suitcase and a battered typewriter and headed south anyway. By the time she reached Tennessee, she was almost out of money, but not out of fight. She worked temp jobs, slept in borrowed rooms, wrote at night, and sang in bars where no one bothered to applaud. Then, one smoky evening, a man in the back of a tiny club slipped her a business card. He'd heard her sing a song that would soon become "Don't Touch Me." Suddenly, her voice was on the radio. Awards came next. Money followed. Respect? That took longer. Jeannie didn't fit the mold. She wore short skirts, cracked jokes, and refused to call anyone sir unless they earned it. Her songs weren't delicate heartbreaks. They were raw, honest storms of desire and regret. When she stepped onto the Opry stage for the first time, she was warned. No dancing, no low necklines, no talking back. She smiled and broke every rule anyway. Behind the scenes, the men running the Opry didn't know what to do with her. Too talented to ignore, too outspoken to control. They pushed her into poor time slots, paired her with dismissive acts, whispered criticism within earshot. Still, she showed up, night after night, until she became the first woman to regularly host the Grand Ole Opry. But no one knew the cost. Because that same year, for the first time, she was summoned, not invited, to room 6B. And it was the first moment Jeannie Seely ever thought about walking away from the Opry forever. The incident in room 6B. In early 1971, a storm knocked out half the power at the Opry. The audience never noticed. The generators kicked in. But backstage, everything took a darker turn. A stagehand slipped Jeannie a folded note. No explanation. Just a room number and a time 6B. She'd never heard of it. It wasn't on any backstage map. Past the dressing rooms, beyond costume storage, she found a door with no nameplate, just a brass knob and a low humming behind it. Inside was a single lamp, a single chair, and a man she instantly recognized. One of the Opry's quiet enforcers. Men who never appeared in photos but made the rules. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't need to. He studied her, asked her a question she has never repeated, and delivered a message that felt less like guidance and more like a threat. Jeannie walked out 11 minutes later, shaken. She went straight to the parking lot, removed her blue sequined dress, and burned it on the asphalt. A janitor later said she watched the flames like she was saying goodbye to someone. She never wore blue on stage again. Things changed after that. Her set lists got shorter. Her introductions were skipped. Whispers about her being difficult spread. A producer even replaced her with a male newcomer who forgot half his script. But Jeannie kept showing up, hosting, working, smiling. Only once did she cross paths again with the man from room 6B. He paused, looked at her, and said 5 words before walking away. "Careful, sweetheart. You're not untouchable." The insurance policy. After the night in room 6B, Jeannie Seely began locking her dressing room and typing letters. Some mailed, most hidden. They weren't diaries or songs. They were records, dated, signed, typed on thin onion-skin paper with her old manual typewriter. Every slight, every threat, every time her mic mysteriously failed or her curtain accidentally stayed down. Things she wasn't allowed to say out loud. She kept those letters in a metal shoebox under her bed, wrapped in a faded red scarf her mother had given her. She never shared the combination, not even with her husband. She jokingly called it her insurance policy, but it wasn't revenge she wanted. It was proof. Because one of the Opry's cruelest tricks was making its women believe they were imagining everything. Too sensitive, too emotional. The problem. Jeannie knew better. She had watched what they whispered about Dottie West. She'd heard the names they threw at Patsy when the doors were closed. So she wrote, documenting a pattern she hoped no one would ever have to see. Then, in 1991, her second home caught fire. Her bedroom burned fast, but somehow the box survived. The scarf melted, the paint blistered, but the lock held. Every letter inside was untouched. Sitting on her porch that night, surrounded by ash, she opened the box for the first time in years. Reading those pages felt like looking at someone else's life, someone cornered and silenced. She didn't cry, she just whispered, "I wasn't crazy." And in that moment, she made a promise. She wouldn't destroy the letters. She would wait for the right time to use them. The knock at the door. Just after sunset, a soft knock broke the quiet in Jeannie Seeley's kitchen. She was barefoot, making her evening tea, long past the age of unexpected visitors. But this knock wasn't casual. It was careful, almost respectful. When she opened the door, a young woman stood there, early 30s, nervous, clutching a folder like it was fragile. She gave only her first name and explained she was writing a thesis on forgotten women of country music. She'd driven 6 hours just for the chance to speak with Jeannie. Jeannie was ready to politely decline until the woman said 2 words, "Room 6B." Everything froze. Very few people even knew that room existed. No one spoke of it. No one was supposed to. Yet this young woman reached into her folder and handed Jeannie a photocopy, one of her letters. Dated June 15th, 1971. A full account of her second visit to room 6B, the names, the warning, the handshake deal she never chose, and the line she remembered most. "If I speak of this again, I will be removed from the stage before I finish my next verse." Jeannie felt her stomach drop. She asked where it came from. The girl explained that while researching backstage layouts at the Opry archives, she found the letter misfiled inside a stack of old stage diagrams, placed there decades earlier by someone who clearly wasn't supposed to have it. She'd copied it, sealed the original back where she found it, and brought it straight to Jeannie. When Jeannie asked why, the girl's answer was simple. "Because I think they did this to others. And I think they'll do it again." That night, Jeannie didn't sleep. She opened her old metal box, reread every letter she'd ever written, and understood what the knock on her door really meant. The erased room. There had always been rumors around the Opry. Doors that weren't on the blueprints, tapes that vanished, members who quietly stepped away after asking the wrong questions. But what insiders whispered about most was a narrow back hallway behind the oldest wing of the building. Maintenance called it a service corridor. Guides avoided it. Veterans knew better. That hallway was where real decisions were made, far from the stage lights. Jeannie had walked down it only twice. Both times led to room 6B. When the young researcher returned a week later with maps and floor plans spread across her arms, she told Jeannie something she never expected. Room 6B no longer existed. Updated architectural documents showed the space had been sealed off in the late 1990s. No permits, no notes, just a smooth wall where the door once stood, as if the room had never been there. But Jeannie remembered everything. The scratchy rug, the rattling radiator, the ceiling stain shaped like a boot print. She wasn't confused. Someone wanted her to look confused. That night, she dug through an old album and found a backstage photo from 1974. On the far edge, half hidden, was a brass knob and a small metal plate, 6B. She mailed the photo to the young woman with a note that read, "If anything happens to me, tell them I tried to tell the truth." Because the cover-up was never just about the room. It was about what happened inside it. The warnings, the bargains, the quiet power that shaped careers without ever saying a word. Jeannie never saw herself as fearless, just cautious, just determined to survive. But as the Opry continued polishing its public legacy, she knew the truth didn't disappear with drywall. Somewhere behind that sealed wall, the old secrets were still there, waiting. The pattern. By the time Jeannie Seely reached her late 80s, most of the women who had shared those same Opry halls were gone. Some passed quietly, some drifted into obscurity, and too many left behind more questions than answers. Dottie West's fatal car crash was labeled a tragedy, but Jeannie remembered the months before, the canceled shows, the strange phone calls, the way Dottie started hinting at things on stage she'd never dared say before. Loretta Lynn's strokes and her unsettling final interviews raised similar alarms. Jeannie never forgot Loretta whispering, "They don't want us around when we start talking too much." Then came Naomi Judd, her death shrouded in rumors about what she had been digging into. Every woman had a story, every woman had scars, and every one of them, at some point, had been told to trust the Opry. Jeannie had seen the pattern for decades. Women pushed out, rewritten, or quietly erased. If they aged, they were forgotten. If they pushed back, they were labeled unstable. If they stayed too long, the industry tightened the screws until they stepped aside. She remembered how fast Patsy Cline was called difficult once she started questioning management. And when Skeeter Davis criticized the church's influence, she was banned for 10 years. Jeannie still kept the letter Skeeter had mailed her afterward, written in blue ink. "They're not mad at what I said. They're mad I said it where people could hear." Now, in her small home outside Nashville, Jeannie kept a different kind of list, not of enemies, but of patterns. Who vanished, who stopped getting booked, who retired after asking the wrong question. The saddest part was the lack of ceremony. No tribute, no farewell, just a quiet erasing, as if they had never stood beneath the lights. But Jeannie remembered. Their voices still echoed in the old floorboards and backstage corners of her mind. And that's when she knew her own silence had reached its end. Because if she didn't speak now, they'd erase her too. Outliving the rules. Jeannie Seely never expected to outlive them all. She wasn't reckless, but she never played it safe either. She sang with everything she had, loved fiercely, and kept showing up, even when the applause softened, even when her dressing room got pushed farther down the hall, even when the holiday calls stopped. And still, she endured. At 90, her steps were slower and someone else zipped up her stage gowns, but her memory remained razor sharp. She remembered every face, every slight, every promise kept and broken. And when a new wave of young women joined the Opry, bright, eager, unaware, she felt both pride and fear. She knew exactly what the place could take from you. Staying quiet would no longer protect anyone. So she began speaking. Softly at first, small comments at tribute shows, careful hints in interviews, fragments of truth disguised as stories. Then came the memoir, self-published, barely promoted, but dangerous. It included pieces of her old letters, redacted names, and enough detail to make certain people uncomfortable. Calls dried up. One night, an ex-Opry tech knocked on her door just to say, "I read it, and I believe every word." There were no public blow-ups, just silence. And in that silence, things began to shift. A new performer protection policy quietly passed. A few producers stepped down. Younger women started reaching out with private thank yous. And one night, As Jeannie waited in the wings with her cane, a young singer brushed by, then turned back and whispered, "Thank you for not letting them bury you." Jeannie smiled, because she finally understood. Legacy isn't what the Opry allows you to say. It's what you say anyway. The final act, the Grand Ole Opry, has seen countless legends come and go, farewells, ovations, surprise exits, but it has never had another Jeannie Seely. She didn't leave with fanfare or a final bow. She simply stopped walking through the stage door. No tribute, no farewell show, just an empty stool and a silence heavier than any encore. But the real shift happened off stage. Her quiet, self-published memoir began circulating among younger performers, passed hand to hand, dog-eared, underlined. And slowly, gentle questions began to surface. Whispers returned to hallways once kept deliberately still. At the center of it was her final act of defiance. She handed over the shoebox. Every letter, every date, every name, given to a country music archive that the Opry couldn't control, with one condition. If anyone tried to erase her, the entire collection would be released to the public. The Opry hasn't touched her legacy since. Now Jeannie spends her days on a porch just outside Nashville. Her bones ache, and her voice is softer, but the spark in her eyes hasn't dimmed. When asked what she'd say to the Opry today, she answered with a shrug. "I gave you my best years. You gave me your rules. I outlived them." Her photographs still hang backstage. No one dares take them down, because everyone knows the truth. Jeannie Seely wasn't just part of the Opry's golden age. She witnessed it, survived it, and safeguarded the secrets others hoped would fade. Renovations may reshape the walls. Press releases may polish the past. But somewhere in those rafters, her song still echoes. Steady, unflinching, unforgettable. The song Jeannie Seely never stopped singing, even when no one else dared to join in. Jeannie Seely may be 90, but her story proves that time can't erase the truth, or the courage of a woman who refused to stay silent. Her letters, her memories, and her final act of defiance have forced the Opry to confront a history it long kept hidden. Now the question is no longer whether she'll be remembered, but how her revelations will reshape the legacy she fought so hard to protect. What do you think Jeannie's letters will reveal when they're finally open to the world? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dive stories like this one, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next video uncovering the hidden truths behind country music's biggest legends.